Okay, we're back. So we're going to look at, again, how to add some more of that texture or maybe even specularity, how the light reflects off of surfaces. In this case, we've got some, again, more dotted patterns here where the light is hitting the texture. So I'm just going to attempt to add some of that back with like a stipple pattern. And then maybe a little few lines here and there, but mostly stipple pattern here to go along with the texture I added here. So let me zoom in here, and you can see there's a good brush for that would probably be something in the preset brushes, maybe one of these over here. We could try something like that. That's actually pretty cool. That might serve a purpose in another spot, but I want more of a dotted like texture here. So let's try this one here. I like this one, and that one you can add almost. It looks like, well, I don't know if those are dots so much. Let's keep looking here. That's kind of neat right there. Huh, that's an interesting pattern too. That's kind of cool too. So let's go with, I was just hoping to find some dots here. I guess that would work. That could work as dots. Let's bring it up so we can see it. So let me do that. And then let's go ahead and turn off this top layer. And then add some, oh, we're in the wrong layer. So again, my mistake. Turn off this layer and go down to the bottom layer. And yeah, that should work fine. Those are nice looking dots there. So let's bring this down a little bit in terms of size. That looks pretty good. Maybe even a little bit smaller. Something like that. Okay. All right. So now we'll make sure on this layer. Let's turn on the top layer again just so we can see where our dots are. And let's just kind of play. We can do this smaller too even. And just start clicking around. And again, I'm just trying to capture some basic areas where these might show up. And looking at it, you can see there it's starting to, they're starting to pop up right there. So that's kind of interesting. Let's go up to 100% on this one. You can see there it's kind of working there. And we'll just continue to work on that until we can get some texture going there. Let's turn this back on. And hit the areas that are most prominent here. Here, obviously, we've got some over out here, too. Just kind of make some patterns here so we can have a little guideline here. If you look at it, there's dots all over the place on this. So I'm just going to try to get something going here where we see it throughout. Maybe not in every spot. But again, turning this off, you can see I'm starting to add some texture to it. Let's bump up the brush a little bit, and we'll go ahead and add some more in here. Oops. Don't want to do that. That's a little too big. Just a nice light click here and there. Yeah, it's got to be subtle. And you'll see it more in other areas, of course. But we're adding a nice texture to it. And that's the idea here. And you don't want to move the mouse when you're using this brush, I've noticed, because it'll slide along and create lines. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, of course. Okay, so looking at that there, we're starting to make some progress there. Just a few out here and there. Thicker in some areas, of course. Not much over here, I guess, but if we look at this, you can see there it's not everywhere, but it's pretty prominent in places. Okay, make sure we're on the correct layer. Again, I screwed that one up, but we'll get it fixed. Okay, starting to happen there. So this is obviously going to take me a while, but again, the point here is to create a similar kind of texture to the one in the picture. And so I'm going to keep working on this. And then when I'm finished with it, we'll come back and take a look at it. And I'll let you be the judge. Okay, so for the final touches here, I'm about as done as I feel like I need to be at this point, just so I can get this done. But the last thing I want to do is add some shade just overall to the certain areas of the bandana, and then save it out. So basically I'm just going to use the dodge tool to darken some areas. So again, you grab the dodge tool here. I'm going to bump it up pretty high at this point. It's pretty big. I'm using the bracket key, the right bracket key, to bring that up. And again, if I double click on it, I can make sure that I'm on the burn setting, which I am, and I'm going for shadows here. Okay, I could drop off the hardness and force though if I want to, and just do this very subtly. And again, I'm going to bump this brush up a little ways just to see if I can get this thing nice and big, and just go around now and just kind of shade certain areas. Looking at this, you can see some areas are darker than others. Let's bump that brush down just a little bit. And then again, just go into our canvas here and darken things up a little bit, certain areas. That's still pretty intense as far as the force. So I'm going to bring down the hardness and the force again a little more, and see what I can do there with that. The light is kind of hitting it over here a little harder. I mean the dark. And so let's see what else I can do with that. There's a few areas over here I can affect. Again, maybe just bring this down. Just shade in certain areas to get them darker in spots. Probably up top here. It's a little darker up there. And let's see here. Down in here a little bit. Just a few areas just to give it a little bit of a variance in terms of how the light's hitting everything. There's a little right there too that can be dropped down. And looking in the red too, even in here, you can bring some of that down. So let me bring this down a little bit, and again, darken some of these areas in the red. Here, let's bring that down some more. Okay, and darken certain areas. Looking good. All right, maybe they're right on the edge a little bit. Okay, there's a little streak right there. I'll just kind of adapt it to something like that. Maybe a little on the edge here, and there you can see it starts to give it some depth when you start using these tools. The light and dark values are what we perceive as depth. So that's kind of neat how that all works. There's a little here. On this edge here, you can take this and darken that on one side. Okay, and then getting down here on the bottom, of course, we have a few areas that need a little attention there. Okay, maybe a little on this one. Darken up the edge a little bit here, go smaller, of course. But you can see how it helps create the dynamics of the picture when you're changing those light and dark values, and it really starts to bring depth to the composition here. And you can see how that's working there. Okay. Some darker values over here. The edges there. Okay. All right, let's take a look here. That looks pretty good. Probably a little more shade over here. So again, I'm going to bump this up. Just along here. I mean, the light's not hitting her as strongly on this side. But I want to be very careful not to overdo it. Okay, so just kind of maybe go down on it right here a little bit. Oops, wrong layer. Kind of have the light affect her. A little darker over there. Maybe even bring this one down a little bit. And you can really see how it starts to bring some depth to the whole picture there, and kind of emboldens the colors too. All right. Okay, so this is kind of what we're looking at here. We've got this original image here. Let's go back here. The original image here, and then we've got the colorized image here. So when you save this out, you can just save it with your original image underneath, the layer you painted on, and then finally the layer above it. If you want. Otherwise, I just want to see the original and the layer that you painted on. And then go ahead and save it out. So File, Save, and now we'll save it out as, like I said, if you haven't saved it yet, which I hope you have by now, 11-your last name, and make sure you keep it as a GIMP file, as a .xcf if you can, so I can see the layers. And that's basically it.